In order to explain why I made this map, I need to take a little detour. See, I used to work on another train game. I've left the team on bad terms due to creative differences. If you want to learn more about that, I've got an old 40-minute video explaining my grievances that I'll link in the description. But the experience taught me many, many things. What I'd like to bring up about it today is optimization. That game was primarily a tycoon game, where you would build up a giant rail network and get tons of trains running through it. The fun way to play was to try and get every train type running on one system together, making your network run like perfect clockwork as intercity trains weaved between the slower commuters. However, thanks to the game's horrid scoring system and intercity trains giving you way more cash to build with than anything else, that wasn't the optimal way to play. Instead, it was to run your trains on separated networks as much as you could, having the fast trains on one and the slow on the other. That is, if you even ran slow trains anymore, because intercity trains were just so ludicrously good at boosting your score while also giving you more money to expand your system and being faster than the competition, the slower trains just weren't worth it long term. While this was pushed on because of the horrid scoring system, in these sorts of tycoon games, optimal play is king to such a point that players automatically think it's the fun way to play. After all, it's what the game is all about, right? Optimizing for money and expansion? Not to say the scoring system was good, it wasn't, it pushed you towards this problematic playstyle, but even if the scoring system was good, was way better than it was when I was on the team, some people would be drawn towards the hyper-optimal cash machine and burn themselves out over time regardless. This relates back to Railroads Online. I made the Lunar Ridge custom map to better incentivize mixed freight operations, which I thought was the more fun way to play the game. Some people have been confirming this claim, either by telling me directly on Discord, leaving a comment on a video on how they enjoyed the map, or maybe letting me know when I pop into a stream to say hello. But that certainly hasn't got everyone to try out this more fun method of play. Instead, some have stuck to the quote-unquote optimal way that is running unit trains everywhere. And, sadly, the greatest example I have comes straight from my Discord server. Our current community save, the Malta Eastern, has mostly been run that way recently, and, at least for me, it's been so dull that I've avoided playing on it entirely. Not all community members have stuck to unit trains, it does depend on who's hosting the server and when it's on, but most sessions have turned out to be unit trains lately, and pretty long ones at that. It definitely doesn't help that someone built a massive oversized yard where we store all our cars sorted out into single tracks, and basically all trains are starting from that one destination, with people just taking a single track's cars. People are too lazy to do shunting. Even when provided with a platform to try the more fun and diverse way to play, a lot of people just ignored it and gravitated back towards the old, worse methods. However, one experience got some interesting feedback. When actually forced to do mixed freight trains, thanks to the rules the host had set that day, those who had gone for unit trains did agree mixed were way more fun than they had originally expected. It's kind of sad to say that forcing players to try something new through required rules is the way to do this, but it sure seems to be. That game I previously worked on had a puzzle mode where map creators can extremely limit what the player is able to do, and while the Tycoon mode doesn't seem to keep anyone interested in the game for a long time, the community I left behind seems to still be going by creating their own maps with their own restrictions and challenging one another to keep up with them. So, why not just add rules to a custom map here? Well, I've got just the idea that special rules would fit into perfectly. See, when making a custom moved industries map, there's nothing stopping you from having two of the same kind of industry. There's nothing stopping you from having zero, either. Not to say that those are good ideas, though. They're hard to balance. Removing industries removes progression as you expand through the map, since there's less to do and less to move. And with double industries, most people are still bound to play optimally, as we've determined before, so unless you've placed both of the industries at reasonable spots to move trains to and from their destinations, most players will just stick to the one. Well, What if we combined that idea with additional rules to determine which specific industries you're going to? That's the basis for this map. Today's map contains 6 logging camps and a sawmill. There's also 2 freight depots, one hidden in the log pond to allow for infinite log unloading, and one not so hidden for cordwood unloading. The goal here, however, isn't money. It's not expansion. If it were, I wouldn't have given you a Heisler, a Climax, 25 cars, and an entire track layout. Instead, it's to make mixed trains and interesting multiplayer operations using dice. There's 6 logging camps. There's 6 sides to a standard die. I think you can see where this is going. When you're assembling your train, roll a die to determine where you're going. Each logging camp has a corresponding number between 1 and 6. Whatever you roll is wherever you go. But that's not all. You also roll the die to determine how many cars you're bringing there. If you rolled a 6, congrats, you're ready to go on your excursion. Put your engine on one end of the train, your caboose on the other, head out, and load up. And for those of you wondering, no, your engine doesn't need to be on the front of the train. If you didn't roll a 6 on the first time around, well, your train needs to be 6 cars long. Don't discard your first rolls, that's part of your consist now. Instead, repeatedly roll for destination and cars again until you have 6 cars in your train. If your final roll would push your total car count to above 6, round that last roll down so that you match 6 exactly. It doesn't matter if you load the cars in order. All that matters is you load the correct amount of cars at the correct destinations before you return to the sawmill. You're probably going to need a pencil and some paper to keep track of all these numbers you're rolling. Now, we do have more rules, but they're not mandatory. They're just additional ones in case you want more of a challenge. So if you just want to go download the map right now, go right ahead. There's a link in the description with 2 versions available. One with all the tracks laid out, and one without any tracks if you want to try your hand at laying them yourself. Both have the same amount of trains to start with, so don't worry. Now, if that somehow wasn't enough rules for you, don't worry. We have 4 additional ones that you can try. Bonus rule number 1, cordwood. After you've figured out how many cars are going somewhere, roll the die again. If you get a 5 or a 6, instead of loading logs at that destination, load cordwood. Yes, do this for every destination. Be warned though, you won't be able to unload cordwood into the log pond. Trust me, I tried. So you're gonna have to unload it at the regular freight depot. Sorry. Bonus rule number 2, drop off. When you roll to bring either 1 or 2 cars to a destination, instead spot them underneath their cranes, start loading, and just leave them there. The next time someone comes to that logging camp, they'll pick up those cars instead of bringing empty ones. If the next person's roll is higher than the amount of cars you left behind, they'll bring along cars equal to the difference. If the roll is lower, which basically only means somebody rolled to pick up 1 car when you had left 2 behind, then you'll just pick up 1 and leave the other for another person to deal with later. If you round down a roll to meet the 6-car train length quota and it happens to be a 1 or a 2, but the roll was higher than a 1 or a 2 initially, don't drop off the cars. If you're running cordwood, only pick up the station cars if they match what you rolled when determining what loads to bring. Bonus rule number 3, boxcars. If you would roll to bring 6 cars to a destination, instead bring 1 boxcar. Don't roll for cordwood. It doesn't matter which boxcar you bring, whichever of the 2 is most convenient for you works just fine. If you roll a second 6, or both boxcars have already been rolled, treat the roll as a 5 instead. If your destination already has a boxcar, instead bring it back to the sawmill. Bonus rule number 4, the tanker. The tank car is intended to only be used if you're already running boxcars in addition to the tanker. Like boxcars, if you would roll to bring 5 cars to a destination, instead bring the tanker, no matter where it is on the map. If it's at your destination, bring it back to the sawmill. If you or someone else already rolled to bring the tanker somewhere, treat the roll as a 6 instead. If you already rolled to move a boxcar, or both boxcars are in motion, instead treat the roll as a 4. Ah boy, I hope you kept up with that all. If you didn't though, don't worry. The download link includes a page with all of the rules so you can read them over. Now, I would end the video here, doing shameless plugs for Ko-Fi donations in the Discord, but I have a small challenge for you viewers before I leave. This video is recorded on the finished map, right? Well, I rolled each and every one of these moves that you're seeing here. Now, there's no way to perfectly prove what any of the rolls were, since there's so many rules to consider, but I want to see you guys try in the comments to figure out what things you can reasonably prove. Not 100% prove, but prove with enough pieces of evidence that it's believable. I did go out of my way to stage some of the stuff so that it might be even easier to figure out what's going on, but, well, I guess we'll see what you guys think. Go ahead and comment what you think. Maybe make small threads to collaborate on your theories with other viewers. And with that, I've got no more to say. Enjoy the map. Consider subscribing to boost my ego, or liking the video to do the same, or maybe donate via Ko-Fi to help keep the channel afloat. Whatever you do, though, have a good one. Cheers, folks.